Welcome to episode 2. This is part 2 in this 3-part series of the Life Redefined podcast launch. This episode will be talking about step 2 from the number 1 strategy for working through thought spirals. So, actually, on that note, if you haven't listened to episode 1, please pause this right now and go listen to that first because it shares step 1, which is such a powerful and vital piece to this process. But if you have listened to episode 1, woo, buckle up, fam. I am super amped up to continue this strategy, and this one is gonna be fun for you today. Okay, so as I mentioned on Monday, the question that I get asked all the time from my community is how do I stop those pesky negative thoughts, or how do I not let those negative thoughts derail me, and how to shift them? So, one, I'll just cut to the chase like I did on Monday about that first part of the question and say you will never stop those negative thoughts from coming up, but you can control how you respond to them. So, my number 1 strategy for how to shift and support yourself through this is with the infamous 3 N's derived from acceptance and commitment training, ACT. And today in this episode, I'll be focusing on the second N, which is step 2, called naming your thoughts. And so this is where we have a little fun, bring a little imagination, and get creative. So let's get right into it, and be sure to stick around to the end to hear the exciting details about my fun giveaway if you haven't heard it yet. All right, so we already did a breakdown of step 1, which is all about your awareness to notice the thoughts that are coming up, bringing your attention towards the specific thoughts that come up in various situations, whether that's when you wake up, when you get a stressful email from your boss, when you hop out of the shower, or like when you're procrastinating and binging TV shows on the couch. Whatever it is, allowing space to simply notice it. So, did you end up taking some time to pause and notice these thoughts? How did that go? If you did, send me a DM, and for real, let me know how it went. I would love to chat about it with you. So, I know when you take that time to notice those thoughts, it can feel kind of defeating sometimes. And you're like, okay, well, I'm definitely telling myself a lot of negative things. I get that. And this is where it can lead to the spiral. So, once again, when you notice the thoughts, you are here with curiosity and not judgment. Okay. It is human and totally natural for you to have certain thoughts pop up. It is okay. Like yesterday, I had the thought of, I totally suck at podcasting and I'm such a procrastinator and always leave things to the last minute. So, loves, this is more than okay for these thoughts to be present, but it is how you choose to see them when they pop up. So that's where this next step comes into play. Now that you have noticed the thought, you are going to name it. This is such a huge component that I feel like often gets missed because we're so caught up in the thought itself and what it means, or we're so focused on shoving it down and trying to get rid of it, that essentially we lose sight of connecting with it on a deeper, more powerful level through naming or labeling it. And can I also just pause for a second to talk about the fact that, like, as kids, we were taught right when we got into school to identify and label emotions. And to some degree, there was also like social emotional learning and emotion regulation, like what this looks like, how to navigate how we feel, and all of that, right? I mean, that learning is not everywhere, but it is taught in some form in school curriculum. Like in my second business as a BCBA, learn I support kids to learn social stories about what certain feelings mean and how to navigate them and all of that jazz. Anyway, I wanted to pause and mention this because when we become adults, it isn't exactly taught or shown to us that we should talk about and name our emotions in the moment it comes up. It actually is quite the opposite in our society to shove it down, just keep going, and it makes you look weak to talk about it or show it. And speaking up is frowned upon, So we are essentially taught as adults to quote unquote keep it together. And so when we have all these thoughts swirling around in our head, we start to think that there's something wrong with us and then shove it down further in the hopes that it'll go away on its own and that we don't need to deal with it. But this doesn't exactly help you because it builds up, it gets worse, and that could lead to burnout, overwhelm, having a short fuse with people, or isolating yourself. It ain't pretty. But that's why you are here right now, learning these impactful and supportive ways to shift through this. So I got you. Okay, so remember the action step from episode 1 was adding this statement of, I am noticing the thought of blank. So that statement, I am noticing the thought of procrastination, of perfectionism, of worrying, and then saying your thought, right? Well, now we will name it more specifically. Naming the thoughts can be super engaging and fun by creating a name that really resonates with you. It can be either a label of something or even a human name. Like as a label, it could be, oh, I am noticing these perfectionist thoughts again, or oh, my brain is telling me the worry wart thoughts again, or I am having the not good enough thoughts again. And sometimes it can resonate better with you by giving it a specific name. Like, for instance, mine is Brenda. Or when I'm feeling extra spicy in my sassiness, I just say, okay, Miss Sass is ready to rage right now. So if it's Sally, Greta, Raging Roger, or Scary Mary, I don't know, whatever hits home for you, go for it. And even with this podcast, oh man, let me tell you, my perfectionist tendencies were in full force, popping up all the friggin' time. It was constant. And as I've always said, and will always give this message to you all, I am human and I am not immune to having these thoughts. We are going through this journey together. So, when I was doing my trailer for this podcast, I had a little idea of what I was doing and talked forever and had to edit and redo it. And then my perfectionist thoughts were screaming at me every time I made a mistake and felt like I needed to fix it and that it was never good enough. My thoughts were telling me like all these things. And so I paused, noticed, and named it, saying, okay, I'm hearing my brain say the perfectionist thoughts a lot right now. And did it mean I am definitely a perfectionist now that I thought this and need to go down that path? No. Like, would that have been helpful for me? No. We get to choose what meaning we place on these thoughts that come up. This is the moment for you to practice the skill of shifting to redefine how these affect you in those moments. I just want to note here that you cannot control when, how, or why those thoughts come up at all. Like they will come up whenever and wherever. So here's just a PSA, stop trying to control them and let them be. They will come and go in their own time. It's how you choose to respond to them. And as mentioned on Monday, like these two steps of noticing and naming creates separation between you and your identity as a whole human friggin' being and this specific temporary thing that is fleeting and passing by in a hot second. Like who you are as a person is not defined by this fleeting thought. It is just simply that, a thought and nothing more. When you place meaning onto it, that's when you create rigidity in your thought process and begin to instill this thought into your identity and deeper belief system at your core. This is where you get to choose how you want to redefine this moment. You get to redefine how you see these thoughts, how you redefine them with a specific name or label so that you aren't letting this one pesky thought determine your worth, your self love, your uniqueness, your power, or ultimately your future and who you be going forward. So, takeaway one here is name the thought with either a label or human name to help detach from it and allow yourself room for redefining how you see this thought going forward. And to throw a little psychology into this, let's chat quickly about cognitive fusion. This means your cognitions dominate your behavior. They essentially can dominate your actions, which is over behavior, aka physically what you do and say, or they can dominate your attention, aka covert behavior, which is getting pulled into or caught up in a certain feeling like worrying and are unable to focus on the task at hand. So essentially, you are fused with your thoughts, believing them immediately, and creating a rigid thinking process. So that could look like, oh, because this thought came up, I am this type of person. But that is not the case at all. So, a core concept within ACT to support yourself through this is cognitive diffusion, which means responding flexibly to your cognition so they can influence but not dominate your behavior. And this strategy I'm mentioning here today is considered a diffusion technique. So, you want to become more cognitively flexible to see the true nature of your thoughts, that they are nothing more or less than a word or picture that pops up in your head. And yes, there is definitely past conditioning and experiences that may be the reason why these certain thoughts come up more often, for sure. But that is definitely a topic for a different episode. For now, we are focusing on the simple act of noticing and naming. So, allowing yourself to pause, notice, and name this thought can help bring more space and curiosity and openness without judgment at the forefront, which can make a huge difference in managing your thoughts with more ease over time. And this all comes with practice. So, building this skill over time. And I just want to add here as a bonus takeaway is switching from the I am narratives to simply saying I am experiencing. So something like I am a procrastinator and saying instead I am experiencing slash noticing procrastination here. This shows your brain that this thought does not have to dictate who you are as a person and have an identity attached to it. It is simply something you thought and it will pass on its own. Okay, the action step of this episode is a super fun one. So once you have noticed a few of your thoughts and have come up with a name or label for them, write it down. Write out the thoughts and then redefine the thought with your I am noticing statement. And better yet, to really make this more powerful, share it with your bestie or share it with your new bestie, me. Send it to me in the DM so I can cheer you on for doing the dang thing. Because when you share it out loud to the world, you silence shame. And there's no shame around here for feeling and expressing what you are going through. It is all human and normal. Okay. So, last thing here, let's say you've been doing this and now you're like, okay, Sonia, I have been doing the noticing and naming and nothing's changing. I'm still feeling frustrated. I basically feel too aware now and can name it all the time. But then what? Like, I keep doing it and it's building more irritation because I just can't get past this and feel still stuck. Help. I am definitely been there. I have definitely been there too where it's like I'm saying to myself, yes, I notice my perfectionism thoughts here. Yes, I am having the thought of not being good enough again. Like, I get it. I see you. And then you fall into that trap of thinking, like, okay, but why do these thoughts keep coming back up? Like, oh, I'm noticing and naming them, but nothing's happening. Raise your hand if you're like, that is me. Well, I've got the answer, which is the third step to this entire strategy and one of the most important parts to help you navigate the thought spirals without it completely taking over. It is a massive and extremely powerful when you utilize all parts of this strategy together over time because it will change your life. So, I am beyond excited to share the final piece to this puzzle with you in the next episode. Be sure to tune in on Friday to hear how it all ties in together with the third and final N. Thank you so much for listening. And now to these super fun things, the giveaway details. If you are listening to this episode the week it launches from Monday, August 29th to Friday, September 2nd, I am doing a very juicy giveaway, which is a free 90-minute coaching intensive. Like, oh, I am so excited to be sharing this with you all. This is valued at $333. Like, what? It is 90 minutes of a coaching call to support you with 1 to 2 specific concerns you have in your life right now. And you will walk away with the recording of the call plus amazing personalized resources just for you so that you can implement what we discuss right away. Like, how unreal is that? Okay, so this giveaway will be open all week and officially closes Friday night, September 2nd at midnight. And how to enter is listed in the show notes for today's episode. So have a peek there and head over to my Instagram account at sonyajmac.coaching for full details. All right. I love you all so friggin' much. And I'll see you Friday for the juicy final finale of this 3-part series.